So I kind of went into what's happening in the versions of Ruby and Rails, and then a little bit about just Ruby, what's trending on GitHub in Ruby. So first off, Ruby 2.3 is the latest stable version that's out, and this was released shortly after RubyConf last year. It's RubyConf, met Matt's, and a good video if you're interested in Matt's keynotes at RubyConf, and he goes into all the changes in Ruby 2.3, as well as a bunch of other stuff.
Lonely operator.
Yeah. So I'm just going to briefly go through some of those slides. Grep V, do you know what that is? It's like the opposite of matching grep. So match everything that doesn't match the string instead of matching. So that's built into Ruby now. Immutable. Internet connections fast enough. Positive, negative, that could be useful in numeric. Hash comparisons. Hash as a proc. So you can pass a hash into map. It's okay if you don't understand all this stuff. This is more just a quick overview of some of the things. And if you have time later, you can go and look at these things further. This one's pretty easy to understand. It's super useful is did you mean? So if you type something wrong now, by default, it'll say, did you mean size instead of sis? That's helped me so many times. There's similar things in other languages, C++ has something similar. And oh yeah, I did spell that wrong. Sometimes it's hard to see your one letter off. So that's really cool. I like that one. Let's see what else. Oh, magic comment. So one of the things for optimizations is making strings frozen, which means they're immutable. So now you can add I think this means you can add a comment, that frozen string literal true, and it'll automatically in that file make all the strings immutable by default. So it's kind of cool. I think that's a step into making that the default in Ruby, but it would break a lot of code. So this is kind of an intermediate step, probably before Ruby 3. I'm not completely sure though. It is an optimization that'll make it faster. And then he talks about speed a bit. And the lonely operator, he spends quite a bit of time on that. So when they were creating the lonely operator, they wanted to do dot question mark.
I thought it was a dot ampersand.
Yeah, but the original idea was dot question mark, but in Ruby, question mark's a method name, is false question mark. You can use that as part of the method name. So they thought that was really confusing. So he came up with the ampersand. Yeah, so it's psychologically confusing. So that it came up with this operator, and it's called the lonely operator. Do you know why it'd be called a lonely operator?
No, I can't think of anyone.
Okay, you say.
Because it looks like a person sitting down looking at a period.
Wow, that's jacked up.
There's actually a picture. I wish I would have kept it. Somebody with a laptop.
Yeah. He's sitting over.
Wow.
I was yes. That's awesome.
So, yeah, that's the best name ever. It's an easy way to remember.
That's the one
too.
thing I got from RubyConf.
Coolest new operator. Okay, so an example of when you would use it, instead of doing u.name to make sure it's not nil, so it doesn't just blow up when you try to do this u.named up first. You can just use the lonely operator and call it all at once. And if it fails, if one of these returns nil, it just returns nil, and it doesn't throw an exception. So it's really useful in most cases, although you probably shouldn't be using it all the time. Some people were we don't need this because you should never be checking for nil so much. You have a point, but when you need it, you need it. So it's nice. And then kind of an extension of that is the dig. on this dig method on array and hash, where you can check for nil as well. I think he has an example there. So like if you want to do like use data.users, the first element in the array, and then .name, you can use dig, and it's kind of the same way. There's the example above. You can see like this last part shows you kind of what they're trying to get after, but you want to make sure it doesn't blow up in any of the steps. And normally you'd like have to go through all that, but now it's just dig. So it's really nice. Another example, and then basically it talks about optimizations from there. And I think I created a slide, Ruby 3x3, which is the next version of Ruby 3 will be 3 times faster as the goal. And so there, 3 times faster than Ruby 2. And Ruby 2 has actually been quite a bit faster than like Ruby 9, Ruby 1 series 1.9. So one of the things people like always complain about in Ruby was it's slow. So they've really been working on improving that, and there's been all kinds of performance optimization. So I was trying to get a sense of like how fast it is now, but I wasn't able to find anything that really like showed a good benchmark on that. But it has been getting faster, and I think part of the Ruby 3 is there's a new proposal for Ruby concurrency. So the other thing that was always a pain in Ruby was like multi-threading. There's something called the GIL, global interpreter lock, which basically just makes it run only on one thread. So Ruby's like not taking advantage of multi-core systems. And the main reason for that is it was developed 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago. At that time, like multi-cores wasn't a thing. It wasn't even something Mats was considering. So at this point for Ruby 3, they're coming up with designs on how to make it concurrent and more performant across cores. So there's this idea, I don't quite understand it exactly, but something called guilds that uses multiple threads and fibers or something already that's a part of Ruby. So take advantage of that. And there's if you're interested, there's a whole video and like a PDF that I point to there. But I'm gonna watch that right now. So that was Ruby 2.3, and that came out I think around Christmas last year. So Ruby 2.4 is in preview now, which I'm thinking probably will come out before the end of the year, but just because the last cycle was kind of out. And there's this blog post about the features in Ruby 2.4, some new things coming out. I don't think I'll go over all of them, but some things with regular expressions, enumerable has a sum method now, so you can call sum like on an array easily. Anything that's enumerable. Let's see what else. Like detecting directories are empty, files are empty. It's kind of like a bunch of different things. Values that. It looks like something with regular expressions. Integer dot digits. So it can break it down into digits. So you can take a number and that's pretty cool. Turn it into an array of digits. Something with the logger has been improved. I'm not sure what that one is. If you have some time, you can look over this more thoroughly. Array min and max. Oh, faster. Okay, I was like, that seems like that would have already been there. Performance optimizations. I thought this one was pretty big. This simplified integers was interesting. So before there was all these different integer types, and they combined 2 of the integer types into numeric. I forget which ones. I think it explains it more. Yeah, these fixed num, big num are both just integers now, so that just simplifies things, and that's probably a big task internally, but makes it nicer. Just some niceties. I think that's not the overall one, but that gives you an idea kind of the things in the new version. It's like just a bunch of little things that kind of make it a little easier. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what's going on in Ruby 2.4. Rails, so the biggest project in Ruby. Came out with a new version in June, so it's been a few months, Rails 5. And one of the biggest things there, somewhat controversial maybe, was the action cable. So if you use WebSockets, like for real-time comments, like pushing notifications out, pub sub model, there's a framework for that now. There's also something called action controller rendering, which I thought was interesting. It allows you to render templates outside controllers. So that's something worth looking into. I'm not sure exactly the use case of that. It says when you want to reuse server-side templates for WebSocket responses. Something worth noting though. Might be useful. And then there's also API mode, which you just pass dash API, and you don't get all the views. So a lot of people are just using Rails for like a backend, like a REST API. And it mentions 3 libraries you can use to create like a JSON API, JBuilder. We used active model serializers, which I'm not sure I'd recommend. We had some issues with it. So I kind of want to look into the other ones. And then there's JSON API resources. And then there's something called the attributes API. My understanding is if you have a table in the database, that's different than some data in like a model field. You want to transform it over to a different format. This attribute API really helps with that. So like in this example, they have like the cost with the $sign and a period, and you want to convert it to cents. You can like do this attribute, add an attribute, and then add this money type. That'll cast it automatically for you. And I think there's a lot of internals that were optimized and things that were changed there as well. So if you're interested, I have a link for that as well. Seems like that could be really useful. And then a whole slide for this. I thought this was pretty awesome, actually. Sometimes it's the little things. I always would type rake db migrate or Rails db migrate or Rails instead of rake and rake instead of Rails. Like they just combine everything into Rails. So now everything tech Rails. Your muscle memory won't get confused anymore. So it's Rails db migrate, not rake db migrate. I like that. And then there's just like this whole other list of things that were added in Rails 5 as well. See if there's anything worth mentioning there. In badges. Just kind of little things. Oh, the last one. I've been bitten by the last one a few times. Like, I don't know, maybe y'all aren't familiar with callbacks in Rails, but if you didn't explicitly like return false, or if you, no, I think it's if you did return false, but accidentally, like in Ruby, the last statement in a method is true or false. Like even if you don't do like return true or return false, it's going to return one. You could accidentally like return false without knowing it, and then it just like halts the whole chain of callbacks. If you have multiple callbacks, be like, why isn't it running my callbacks? And then after searching for like 5 hours, you'd see it. This is actually happening where I used to work. It's like, oh, it returns false. But now it doesn't do that, so it's more intuitive. But you have to it does what you think it is. You have to throw abort to explicitly abort it. So that one will save a lot of people pain. Can attest to that. And then I thought I was giving like a lot of weight to Rails, so I thought, why not look at what else is out there trending on GitHub. So let's take a look at that real fast, because I think we're pretty much out of time. This was pretty interesting. Mastodon. I don't know if has anyone heard of that.
Yeah, micro-blogging, so.
I started looking at this. The architecture looked really interesting to me. So I think it's pretty much just a chat app that's open source, like GNU license. So like Slack, I guess. But like based on active streams, wet finger pub sub hub bub pub sub hub. That is hard to say. And salmon, as I used to say.
That's how you're supposed to say, right?
Salmon, yeah, I think so. So this one looked really interesting. I think I'm gonna have to look at like these things it uses, because Ruby wasn't really known for like WebSockets type frameworks until Action Cable, or before Action Cables. Would be interesting to see what they used here. So that one's trending. Let's see if there's anything else like Homebrew everybody uses. So this kind of goes to like Ruby. Is Ruby dying really? Like, come on, everybody's using it in some way. Yeah. Still, there's so much.
Jekyll.
Yeah, Jekyll is really popular. I don't know why awesome React Native is part of Ruby. That seems pretty interesting. Like, I would think that'd be more JavaScript.
Was it debug, or what is it called? Yeah, validate.ruby. It's because of the setup.
Components. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some Ruby files there.
Oh, it's just okay. It's just this one file.
And then the debug or dedub.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, Jekyll, Rails, still turning. Discourse has been out there for a few years, I think. A lot of people use that as a forum. It's really good. This is Ember too. What else? Vagrant. Vagrant's really popular. I've heard of that. Ruby. What else? Devise for authentication. That's what most people use for authentication. Bootstrap Sass. It doesn't seem like that would be Ruby, but I guess it is.
Sass.
This one looks interesting.
That Sass was a gem.
Yeah, but yeah, it should be. I don't know. Maybe that's just like a setup that uses Ruby. Huggin. I've never heard of this.
Neither.
Until I saw this trending, at least. Think of hackable Yahoo Files plus if this and that on your own server. You always know who has your data. That sounds pretty cool. Connect. I guess it's like to connect a bunch of stuff together, different APIs.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that one a little more. Fakers to create fake data. I've used that one. GitLab, I've heard of that. I think it's like a kind of like your own, hosting your own GitHub. CocoaPods for iOS development. There's Sass. That's weird. How's that Ruby? No, no. This is Ruby though, and there. And just a little CSS. I guess to set it up, maybe. So it seems like Ruby's used a lot in DevOps type things like Vagrant, probably with CocoaPods and Sass, like scripting. Probably the Sass one too. So that gives you an idea. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
So is Ruby dying?
I'm here.
Yeah, it's dead. It's dead.
Oh,
Do what?
Go up real quick.
Go up?
A few slides.
Oh.
Oh, other. Yeah, it was other. Yeah, so you know what I did? It's so bad.
Did you just like
anything that I misspell or that I added I add the misspelling as an alias.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if I misspell it, it still runs a. But I've said I'll tell you that as an alias.
It's a good idea.
Go to the attribute tool. That one I wanted to see.
I think you still needed to implement this type casting. So that would cast it from, I guess it's 10, yeah. Converts this $10 to the cents version of it.
Oh, gotcha.
So I guess you'd have to like take out the period and take out the dollars on it. I thought it was the other way around though, so I'm not sure, like coming from the database, getting it, maybe it works. Maybe it just goes into the database. That's what it looks like it's doing, creating a new product with that, and then as you saved it, it converts it. I think that could be useful, especially like for money. Really useful.
Yeah.
So did anybody like hear that Rails is dying, or am I just bringing that up for the first time?
If it matters to you, I literally just it was right before I came here. I was still working on some Google around, and I whizzed by something that did say that, but I didn't pay any attention.
Oh.